Topic for this session is innovation, education and HR strategy in a VUCA world. Over to you, Mr. Zafar Aziz Osmani.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum to all of you. Before we start this panel, ek to time thoda sa chota hai, we will have to rush through. But I really want to thank Asghar. If it was not for him, so many industry leaders today would not have known what is VUCA. And you know, they were very honest, sitting in the panel, everybody confessing that we were calling each other ki ye hota kya hai. And I am no exception. When he told me, then thanks to Google, I just checked and I educated myself on that. And then I realized it's such a fascinating concept that we need to discuss. It's so important. And I'm glad that in this panel, we have few industry HR specialists. And we also have someone very important from academia, जिन्होंने ये actually बहुत बड़ा role play करना है VUCA में. Can I have my presentation, please? So, as you know, the topic is very interesting. It's talking about the new world, the world which started after the Second World War with a population of 2 billion is today sitting at 7 billion. So this is the kind of exponential growth in population that has not taken place in recorded human civilization. Massive explosion. There are few revolutions which have impacted society, the Industrial Revolution, the French Revolution for some intellectual changes, but Industrial Revolution brought a totally different world. And now we are talking about a technology, a world of technology where things are changing at a pace which is simply mind-boggling, which is unbelievable, you cannot imagine. And the key word is here, you cannot imagine what will happen. Both, all fronts. You know, we're talking about innovation, and I'm glad Asghar put this education in this because they're very, very closely linked, and the HR strategy in the VUCA world. So just to recap, very, very quickly understand what is the new normal now. You know, we used to have it's a normal world or these are abnormal times. There is nothing unusually abnormal now. What is normal is volatility. You look at the economy, you look at the politics, internal politics, external politics. Nobody, few months back, imagined that Brexit is going to happen. Well, it happened. And we are still not sure what impact it is. Yesterday, British Parliament was arguing about whether to do another referendum or not. We are still not sure. Next thing, very significant, Mr. Donald Trump happened. And it's not that he has just happened, he is happening every day by hours. And we don't know what is going to be the real impact of that. Uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, these are the norms now. So anybody who is in business, anybody who is running an organization has to understand that we have to live in this world where normal is volatility, uncertainty, complexity and ambiguity. Now very, very quickly, when we say volatile, basically what I feel is it's the unprecedented change. One is the expected change, the normal change. When we used to have graph in a certain straight line, now then came the exponential, and now there is something I have not found a definition. In the morning session you were seeing in one of the presentation, it's just actually skyrocketing up. It's not even a graphical thing. So it's very, very rapid in terms of, you know, population, I say, technology, and it is also unpredictable. And we talked about it. And lastly, it's generally for the worse. Whatever is happening, you know, we haven't seen any very positive revolution kind of a thing happening. On uncertainty is basically, we're talking about the inability to know everything. So this is the fact. We will not know everything. So knowledge, and then our ability to predict is absolutely limited, and surprises are there. So these are the things which are about uncertainty, on the complexity. We're changing environment, and everything is happening so fast. If you look at the global warming slide, I think I must thank Paul Kaiser in the morning. He showed some brilliant slides, and I think it just opens your eyes on the way things are happening in the last 30, 40 years. Multiplicity of factors affecting the organization. So organizations are not only dependent on certain economic activities. There are socio-political and most importantly technological things. So we are impacted by multiple factors, and global and domestic chaos and confusion. There is ambiguity, difficult difference in interpretation. People are not clear. There is a lot, and of course, we are missing obvious meanings of things. What is happening and what would it lead to? Now, new leadership I have done is something just to I'll draw the attention of the panel on that. I've thought about it. So, what is it in the VUCA world that we need from our people, from our human resource? Because the topic is specific to human resource. We need now different kind of people. We need people who are action-driven, who have very strong ability to manage the change, who, for uncertainty, they need to have a wider understanding, ability to understand things in a much broader perspective and futuristic perspective, which requires a very conscious thinking capability. Think of future, how do you think about future? People who are focused on the goals of the organization, purpose, and who are also very flexible and adaptable. And lastly, in terms of ambiguity, there has to be ability to make decision making, not getting lost in the environment of ambiguity. And finally, innovation is the key. So these are the things that we need. And when we come to question, I will request Mr. Talib Karim, who is Rector of Institute of Business Management, mashallah, creating thousands of business graduates who are coming to the industry as our input. What is it that academia is doing to build human resource with these capabilities? And with this, academia basically, we get the fresh education in students. And right now what I see is most of the universities are on historical concept, conventional learning methodologies, and focus on status quo. Our teachers, I think one of the biggest challenge, I was telling Mr. Talib during lunch break, is the faculty. Do we need to go and look at a totally retraining of the faculty for them to be able to provide human resource which is valid for VUCA? And lastly, graduates of new organization will really need creativity, innovation, challenging the status quo. And I was very, again, happy with the morning speeches when they said that we look at us as a challenge. We will create obstacles for you. We will create resistance for you when you come up with new ideas. And that is the key challenge. So with this opening remarks and thoughts, I would like to now request, starting from, I think we start from that end. Shakeel, you are in the pharmaceutical industry, and what do you think are the disruptive trends in pharma industry, and how is your organization planning to manage them?
Okay, thanks, Zafar. I think just want to start off and base on my arguments, because I feel that we talk about HR partnering with business, and we talk about HR strategy. Now, in a VUCA world, or even in the normal time, but in the VUCA times, I think it is all about culture, it's about enhancing leadership, it's about talent development, and it's actually about managing the change. When the VUCA time comes in, which is perhaps unpredictable sometimes, what happens that change begins to happen. And when change begins to happen, it affects the leadership, and that is the test for leadership, that how leadership is going to behave, whether the mindset is strong or not strong. And that happens, the talent in the company begins to get shaken up. And that they become disengaged or engaged, or they begin to leave then. All this impacts the culture, because the culture reshapes. Now, how is HR going to help out in that? Especially in the pharmaceutical world, where this VUCA times happens quite often, because the mergers are taking place, acquisitions are happening, and there is also a brain drain. Pharmaceutical industries is not the key market or industry for people to join. HR has to play a vital role. It's not just about partnering with business, but partnering with business in key strategic dimensions. So it can really be the center of focus and drive the entire company with the alignment of the CEOs. So that is what is happening. And I think in the VUCA times, HR plays much more vital role than just sitting back and hiring people. So it's about shaping culture that time, engagement more, and that's what we need to do that. And pharmaceutical is all the time into that evolution.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Asma, you are into a very interesting, we'll quickly go another round. You are into a very dynamic industry. TCS is going through a totally rethinking of the conventional, just the delivery system. They have gone into a lot of new things. Can you tell us very few words, what do you think is happening in the which is really causing disruptions and volatility and uncertainty, and how is TCS gearing itself to make the best out of it?
Okay, thank you, Zafar. I would like to start by saying that what exactly we HR professionals do usually. We are very fond of following and learning from best practices of good or great organizations, and we have been successful so far. That's what we do most of the times. But with VUCA times, we have to do something really VUCA. We have to understand what VUCA is and then make our HR strategy based on our business strategy as well. So for that, in our industry, a lot is happening, which is logistic industry. Uber has disrupted the market, and any other industry that I can quote is hotel industry has been disrupted by Airbnb, which we've seen, we know that. So in our industry, what we have thought that why should we wait for someone like this to disrupt us? So we sat as a leadership team. The most important thing is that the top leader has to believe in this. No HR strategy is going to be successful if the top leadership does not believe in this. We can't do anything on our own. So a brainstorming session was called in our company, and it was called by our leader, be prepared for disruption or be prepared for being disrupted. So what we did, we had a long session. What we did is that we have hired a chief disruption officer in our company.
Wow.
Who actually...
Chief Disruption Officer. Anybody heard of that title before? Well, TCS has one.
Yeah, because we cannot continue to learn on best practices or past practices. We have to think about the future. Not past, not present, future. So this is our futuristic approach. What will be the role of this Chief Disruption Officer? He's going to disrupt our own business before an external source disrupts us.
Wow. Great.
So I can add more, but
no,
I will...
That's fine. At least, it tells us that the organizations are thinking on those lines. Disruption, and it's very interesting. What she's saying is that we're trying to think disruptions internally, and then before external disruptions impact you. Mazhar Sahab is the CHRO of Pakistan Telecommunication, very interesting organization, huge thousands of people providing telecom services. What's happening, Mazhar Sahab, in your industry as VUCA?
Thank you very much, Osmani sahab. First of all, I will say that when we talk of the VUCA, I think PTCL is the organization where this term is really existing because of various cultures, various categories of employees, then various systems, then attitudes, cultures. So everything, if we see, this is the organization where you see the impacts of VUCA in a big way. How I take it, I give the example, one concept which is now emerging, that is VUCA Prime. Now, VUCA Prime, in the ideas which has been given in the VUCA Prime are that when we talk of the volatile situation, it is encountered by vision. That we have discussed many panels, of course, everybody has discussed, that when it comes to vision, that is the solution for volatility.
Exactly.
Now, second, when we talk of uncertainty, it is encountered by understanding. Understanding means that you have to stop, you should have the capability to stop, see and listen. Beyond your normal functional capabilities or boundaries. So if that is there, that is understanding. Then the third word, which is complex, that is encountered with clarity.
Clarity.
So if you have the deliberate process in place in the organization, where you are clear about the challenges and you are ready to take the decisions against those challenges, that is clarity. And the last one, when we talk of ambiguity, it is with the agility. It has been encountered with the agility. So this concept is there. Now I come to PTCL, your question, that we have considered all this. We have made a plan. It is not today. It is for last 6-7 years. So if you ask me, we are there. Of course, we are not there because of the complexity. But at least we have the vision. We have the strategies to cope with the requirements to deal with the VUCA challenges. So first thing what we did was that we had, of course, now a huge workforce. So or in organization, when you talk of the simplicity, it is that you should be nimbler and lean structure. So for the time being, up till now, we were discussing yesterday that we have come down from 64,000 employees to 16,000 employees.
Wow.
So this is something which is unexemplary, probably in the world, that business is there. We have grown the business volumes. We have, at that time, when I'm talking of the people, of course, at that time, there was only one business, which was PSTN. Now we have several businesses, and employees have reduced to 16,000. Now we have very simple organization. Still, there are the questions, but with the same people, some people we have inducted, but at least with this, it is still going on further. Then we have made these strategies, we have used all best practices, tried to use all best practices to form the corporate strategies in alignment with the business requirement. We have diversified our business. If I go back, of course, at that time when mobile sector came, Asghar is here, he will further elaborate, that mobile sector came, there was no cushion for the voice. So that was the time when we diversified our business, and finally we came up with a big success in the financials, in the operations, everything. That was a turnaround time. And then one very important factor is that today in VUCA world, you cannot exist if you once prepare or devise a strategy and stick to this. This is a continuous process. So in PTCL, we have tried that it should be reviewed not only annually, but even whenever we see that a requirement is there to review the policies, review the strategies, we have come out with that. Then the third, in this type of organizations, you know, when out of 64,000 at that time, more than 55,000 were the unionized staff. So industrial peace was a challenge.
That is something, that was a tremendous thing done by PTCL management of that. In VUCA, we are, I think, looking more into the what are the future telecom challenges, which you have mentioned very eloquently. And I think one of the best things that you suggested was that we all learning for us is that we used to make a strategy, short-term strategy, long-term strategy. That actually is just a guide. It has to be a living document. Now, business planning and strategy has to be a living document. It has to be, you can't even say that 1 year from now, these are the things that are, things keep happening. And with the pace they are happening, you have to be really very, very agile. And I think PTCL is setting some good examples. Jameel sahab, aap bataye, Mobilink is a comparable industry. What is happening at your end?
Yeah, just one thing before we start. So we are now branded as Jazz. So I would like to take this opportunity also that, okay, Mobilink was a company of past. And as you said, our focus should be on the future. So company of future is Jazz. Jazz is our employer brand as well as the commercial brand that we'll use. So I think before, to be honest, I jump into the topic that you asked me, meaning it's an honor, first of all, for me to be part of this panel, and I think it's my first time speaking at Karachi in
Welcome
an
to
HR
Karachi.
forum. So, no, thank you so much.
It's
Thank
not
you
that
for
bad
having
now.
me. And I think I'm also, privileged because in the morning, like, okay, we had a flight at 7, then it got delayed for a couple of hours, and I was seeing some activity over the WhatsApp, and I felt maybe I'll miss it. So then I made it. So I think I'm delighted, to be honest, to be with you all, and I think to learn from the colleagues and learn from the all the people those are participating. I think as you said, meaning the changes are the new norm. The disruption is the new norm. So I think we just need to get ourselves comfortable with that this is what will be happening in all the time. You cannot predict it, You cannot really foresee it up to some extent with analytics and some background. Yes, you can. But I think don't overestimate any of those things and don't underestimate the power of change. So I think what I have saw, let's say, if I come to the question first, that how the telecom industry is changing. It is changing internally, as Mazhar Saab alluded as well, that we need to face our internal problems and internal issues. Due to that, we see consolidation, but Shakeel also alluded that consolidation is the new norm also. You will see mergers and acquisitions happening, and it is happening everywhere in the world, and we already started seeing it in Pakistan. Mobilink and Warid merged to be Jazz, and I think I'll come to it in a while. Second thing, I think we are getting a competition from places that nobody thought. Like, okay, yes, I let's say, in this industry, compete with some of the companies, those are the traditional telco operators, but I compete with Facebook, I compete with WhatsApp. You can make a call from the WhatsApp on the free Wi-Fi at maybe hotel or somewhere. So actually, I'm losing the revenue. So I think this is something, a question to us all the time, that okay, how we can predict that and how we get ready for that and how we compete it. And I can tell you one thing, meaning the Wimpelcom, which is one of the 10 largest telecom operators in the world, they are coming up with the solutions that we will be competing with OTTs. To be honest, we don't want to compete anymore with the telcos, because we know that this is the company, this is the setup of past. So for the future, we need to get ready for the setup of the future, which is the OTT players. We will be competing with them, we'll face them, and I think we'll give them a run. So we are getting ready for that.
Excellent. You see, this is a very interesting paradigm shift. Your competition, who is your competition? Yeah. And I think, it's not telecom, because Uber was, I guess, questioned, are you sort of getting these taxi drivers out of job? And he just laughed. He said, taxi drivers are not my competition. My competition is the private car owners. I want to give them the service where the use of private car becomes unviable for them. And they find it very easy, convenient to just get the car whenever they want, from wherever they want, at the cheapest price. So I think that's a different paradigm we are talking about. Very interesting.
And then I think just one thing to add, meaning you quoted Uber, let's say. And then Uber, I think the challenge that they are facing, or they will be facing in the future, that okay, you can know about your, meaning it's a new industry, and they're having a growth. But after a certain point in time, they will face a difficulty that if your phone is not in active mode, you cannot know where the person is. You cannot know until you are in the Uber application.
Absolutely.
So the growth for the traditional OTTs and telcos will come from these consolidation also again at that level. So let's see what is the future of Uber and Jazz, but maybe more.
No, very true. Actually, we've become so dependent on Wi-Fi. One of my friends was saying, there can be a life without wife, but there cannot be a life without Wi-Fi. So it's so interesting. And even the kids, one of my daughter's little kid, he comes first thing, he says, I want the Wi-Fi code. And that's what the life is now all about. I'm going to skip Talib Saab for now, and I'm going to come back to you and then, because for the pearls of wisdom that are really needed. Sir, aap bataएं, in the energy sector, what is so disruptive that you see, and how is your organization getting ready to meet the challenges?
Okay, thank you, Zafar Saab. First of all, I also went through some VUCA times since early morning today.
Okay.
Trying to come from Islamabad.
Mazhar.
So that means you face uncertainty.
Just like
once you have booked yourself with PIA, and then you face ambiguity because you don't know when the flight is going to get off. So that's the reality of life. So this is what is exactly, now defining our space in business and elsewhere. VUCA is technically a military term coined not really very far back in the past, like many other terms which have made their way in strategy and marketing both. I think it is the same thing. The things are changing. There is a paradigm shift. The established is being deterred or confronted by very agile. People took refuge in solid, and now the thing is fluid. So there's a deluge which is taking away all that is solid. Now, because you asked me specifically about energy, so we are one of the very first, not the first, but one of the few first wind power projects in Pakistan, again, which shows that there is a change going on.
Mashallah.
Once I, proclaimed my idea within my Harvard community on my class email. I still remember it was a few years back. And one of my class fellows from the US, he said, yes, from nukes to winds. So maybe that was a compliment, but also there might be a disbelief that Pakistani market, whether that can embrace wind power or not at that time. And today now wind power is a reality. More than 1,000 megawatt of wind power is there in Pakistan. But still, that is not what the total change is about. That is not the volatility we are facing. What we, maybe in the Pakistani market, we may not be willing to see in the energy sector, but the change is coming from distributed grid. The change is coming where, the major producers of electricity, they will move away from bulk producers, from the large businesses, from big money, to distributed producers, maybe the consumers producing for themselves and giving away the surplus into the main grid.
Yeah, this is happening in many countries.
So it's already happening.
You pay it back to the grid.
Yeah, so there is a lot of disruption going on. About my own experiences, even in my small organization where we developed this wind project, the new norm, as you said, the new norm is that it cannot be a single or multi or dual directional flow of information. It has to be now in the form of networks. May I just add one thing more? Like in the modern military nowadays, you just can't get along with only binoculars or the scopes of your sniper rifles. It has to be multi-dimensional level of intelligence and views coming in. The same is the case with the business. You have to move away from dimensional and sequential knowledge to relational things, to multi-dimensional views.
Excellent.
Only then you can face the new challenges.
Thank you so much. Multi-dimensional, the kind of innovation, the creativity, and one gentleman here, Mr. Talib Karim, I'm a great admirer of him as a dean of IOBM. He is in the education academia, jahan pe I have found him to be one of the most open-minded leader of this world. Just to share with you, it was in late 1990s. I met him and we talked, and I told him that no university in Karachi is doing MBA in HR management. Why don't CBM take it? It used to be called CBM. And I was so happy because Talib immediately accepted that idea. He said, it's a great idea, Zafar, let's do it. And then he put it back on me to design a curriculum for MBA in HRM. We did that. And then I went to him, here it is. And then he came back, now give me the faculty. And I really appreciated that because you see, you don't just get anybody with a book in hand to go and start teaching HRM. I was lucky, I was in American Express those days, and I had network of HR directors in different companies. I drew on them and we started off a program, I think it was back in 1997, MBA in HRM. And I'm very proud to say today, a number of MBA HRM from IOBM are working in various levels, senior level positions in Pakistan and in Dubai. There is a great network, mashallah. So he has always been very open. Now I'm going to ask him a question that we are all here, sir. You are I look at you as a manufacturing plant. You create resource for rest of us here. And what we are getting as a resource is from this classical concept of methodology, training, and the wisdom, which, my teacher must have picked it up from his teacher. And beside the knowledge, a culture where you are not supposed to challenge the teacher. A culture where you don't challenge the status quo, you don't question the wisdom. So it's it's a culture which actually shackles our mind. We are producing people who are just yes people who go and buy notes from Urdu Bazaar, write, and then they get through and they become graduates and they come with the degree flying colors. Some of them are brilliant, they make through it. But what is academia supposed to do to create people for the VUCA environment? To create people who have innovative, who have the ability to challenge. And then I'm going to come back to the rest of the leaders. What are we doing for our leadership? Who is not letting these people talk, who is not letting these people come up with new ideas, and we are insecure in our own learning and understanding. That's second part. First part, Talib Saab, enlighten us, sir.
Thank you, Zafar Saab, and thank you to Asghar that he always encourage academia to be part of such conferences and always invite
education institutions, faculty members, and students to be part of it. And that's what was lacking for many years in this country, that there was a disconnect between academia and corporate world. I think as an educational institute or institutions, I see Leon also sitting here from IB and quite a few faculty members and students. I think we face very tough challenges almost on a daily basis. Here we were for many years trying to cope with Generation Y, the millennial generation, which Mr. Asif Juma and Mr. Zafar Khan talked about in the previous panel before the lunch. And now we are dreading to get a generation where a 2-year-old come up with a smartphone and starts playing a game on that phone. And my generation, which is a baby boomer generation maybe, won't know what this 2-year-old is doing, but he knows what he is doing. He knows exactly how to turn on the phone or the iPad, go on to the game, play the game, and then switch it off. So this is an actual fact. It happens in all families. I think we have all experienced that. And this is the generation which will be coming up next to universities, to schools, with far greater knowledge than we ever had when we were growing up. I think someone mentioned about a newspaper. I think when we were growing up, we were forced to take Dawn newspaper every morning and read it, or Time magazine or Newsweek. Now the concept of reading newspaper is online. You just go online and read it. At one point, I think Sarmat always denies that a lot of people feel that print media will be gone soon. There won't be any print media. I strongly feel that it will still be there because that's part of morning ritual that we all go through. It's to read the newspaper in the morning. I don't know whether the new Generation Y does that or not. I don't think they do. So as an educational institution, we do face these challenges, that how to prepare students for the corporate world. And it's whether whatever we are teaching today will be valid once they graduate in the next 4 years or 5 years or 6 years. And that threat is always there. I think 1/3 of jobs that are in existence in North America were not there about a decade or so ago. These are new jobs. So that's a new profession, new technology has taken over. As parents, we never thought that we'll go through this type of a technology, that we get our credit card bills and there's a huge amount of 10 to 15,000 rupees of food panda bill that is part of your credit card because your children are using the online technology, and it's very easy for them because they're not paying for it. I'm paying for it, or you are paying for it as parents. So these are the things that are changing, overnight. These are the things that...
In Talib sir, specifically faculty
turn
turn around. That
okay, now we come to how we cope with this type of changes. And you're right, the first faculty need to change. That the concept of being a teacher is gone. You should no longer be a teacher, you should be a facilitator. The concept of classroom type of learning is gone. I think Mr. Zafar Khan talked about, or Mr. Asif Juma talked about rote learning. That is gone. And our teachers, our faculty members need to adjust to that type of changes. What universities are doing, especially business universities, to cope with this disruption is to now work with industry very closely. So we have gone into what is known as experiential learning type of a teaching methodology, where now students will not spend all their time in the classroom environment, but they'll be working with industry, with companies, free of cost. So it's a win-win situation for the companies, and it's a win-win situation for us. because then we can convert these projects into case studies and other research projects. Now, our faculty members are used to that whiteboard type of teaching where you take a marker and you teach through the textbook or through. That needs to change. I think that needs to, and I think we are, as business schools, not just us, but many business schools, are trying to adapt to that type of learning methodology where you are learning by doing, not just going through rote learning. Other challenges that we face through this disruption, there's also a talk about university being non-existent after a few decades. You know, with MOOC and, you know, this massive open online courses being offered, you know, there's a talk that students might not need to go to a classroom environment, might not need to go to this brick and mortar type of an environment. They can just sit at home and at a very cheap rate, or even for free, go through these courses, online courses. That there is a
which is actually even now happening. There are a lot of online programs, there are webinars, so you don't need to go to listen to lectures. It's happening even in Pakistan, in the rural areas. Teachers sitting in Karachi and big cities are conducting classes. But really, मुझे ये बताइए कि do you think that there is a case, I mean, I'm not talking about the IOBM, but just the academia, to aggressively retrain our faculty into the VUCA thing? What we need is now people with creativity, with innovation, who challenge the status quo. That is the kind of people we need now to manage to be able to successfully sail through the VUCA. So you think there is a case for that?
No, I think that transformation is already taking place in quite a few of the universities in Pakistan. And it has to take place because otherwise we'll be left behind and we'll again be producing those graduates which we were producing 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and the market does not need those graduates of 2 decades ago. They need new graduates with more...
I'll take this point from here. You know, market does not need those graduates. And if you look into the leadership of our corporate or organization, most of the people at leadership level, even if they are, you know, I'm not talking by level, anything, by vintage, are 50s, it must be in their 50s and all. In the younger generation, you will see people at the C level, even in their 30s and 40s. But even if you look at it, let's say average 40, so their education has been about 15, 20 years back by professors whose education must have been about 25 years back. So really, that gap is there. And I want to ask last round with each of our business leaders, Shakeel, there is an internal, a very strong force of people who are of that vintage, the existing leaders who have not really opened their mind, who have not been able to keep up, and they are challenged by their youngsters when they come in. And if they are questioned, our response is that you don't know. You're new here. This is how things work here. That's a very common phenomenon I've seen dealing with various organizations. There is a middle management tier which is very strong and which actually kills the initiative. And after a few years, the fresh person turns into the middle management. You may call them Khalifa or whatever. I know in multinational we don't have that strong culture, but most places they are. And you know, what you learn is, you're taught is to be just follow the boss. Boss is always right. And you know, that is something which is totally out of sync with the VUCA requirement. How do you think your organization, is there a problem like that? And if it, how you deal with it?
Zafar, you're right. Actually, this is an ongoing issue all the time. I mean, I think when you and I also joined the company and organizations, we face the same thing. This new kid is on the block. How come he's telling me to drive the processes? This has become much faster. So it's in every generation. This time, the new generation Y is, of course, much broader or much more stronger. I mean, he's equipped with knowledge and everything, more agitative, much more being likes to be challenged, not going to be a settler like us, perhaps, in many organizations. Now, yes, certainly, the frontline supervisors, if I look at the statistics in any organizations, the people who have the largest, the company which have the largest turnover is between 0 to 3 years experience in the company. That's where they start settling in, and their supervisors are not accepting them, and they move on. So yes, there is a big drive to have a development program, and many programs have been done for the frontline supervisors.
Great.
And that is exactly that it is necessary for
Thank you. Thank you so much. Asma, Khalifas.
Khalifa.
Yeah, we have a company of staff strength of, people strength of 12,000. And these are the people who have brought this company to this level that we are ready to take it to the next level. But it's very, as far as it is challenging, but it can be very easy as well. Because we all believe, the whole team believes in that we have to make life simple and easy and convenient for our people and our customers. So if you put customers first, so, fine, they won't be as technology savvy, but the two most important things that this VUCA world needs is mindset of agility and adaptiveness. So if they're adaptive...
So how are you dealing with the older generation people who don't believe in this?
I don't think that that'll be an issue in our organization because
Okay,
we do have a lot of people who've been there for many 25, 30 years, but mindset changes from the top. The top leadership is agreeing to this. They are in agreement. They are in alignment. So now the rest of the population has just to follow, and we're getting there.
Mazhar sahab, aapka to bahut bada challenge hai ye.
And that because it was the culture there, the bureaucratic culture was there. So we have to take solid steps so that the youngsters, they should have the exposure and they should be not only listened, they should be given the exposure to take the decisions. I will just discuss this year, 2016. 2016, we to just overcome these boundaries, we have started 3-4 intentional programs which have come up with a very big success. We have come up with Facebook at Work, where all employees, they are there. Now, what happens is that whatever youngsters are saying, whatever ideas are coming, everybody is saying. It is not only few managers or few line managers. Even the president, he himself is monitoring every time.
Excellent.
Exactly, all CXOs, they are there. EVPs are there. So, this has brought us a huge amount of openness.
Excellent.
And
so I think the key learning here is that leading by the top, leading by example. So if others see that my boss is really open to ideas, then you're put under some kind of a pressure.
Then second thing is that we have started, previously we were doing the town halls, but with the new president came, we started the town halls on regular basis.
Excellent.
So
there is an open communication.
After every quarter, and it is two-way, and whole of the country is online.
Excellent.
Available there. It is not that questions are only to the particular audience. Audience is the headquarter as well as all offices of the company.
Thank you.
So that we are doing.
Thank you so much. Jameel
One
sir?
more thing I will tell you, sir, just one thing. That we have just started a program which is called Summit. Around 200 young graduates we have taken, and this is the program it is intended for this particular purpose, that we have taken them directly to a training center, and it is not normal training. All CXOs, EVPs, president himself, everybody is going to them.
Excellent.
And give them the exposure that when they will come, they are the leaders and they will not have the bosses. They will be the bosses. They will be taking their own decisions.
Thank you so much, Mazhar sir. आपका तो Mobilink में इतना बड़ा challenge होगा. It's a relatively new organization.
No, I think, yeah, you can see me and feel that. But at least I learned one thing, that this word Khalifa, at least I learned in the vocabulary. But I think let me just add one thing, because we are like, it's a very important topic, and at least my perspective, I don't see age has something to do with VUCA.
No, it's a state
it has
of
nothing
mind.
to do.
Absolutely.
So we should not be looking that way. Okay, if somebody is more in number of years of age, is maybe not the right person, because I worked in Pakistan now in one of the largest companies like Jazz, but then also outside Pakistan. I think it's with us, it's a skill. And another thing that I want to highlight for the colleagues' sake here, that okay, there are two ways to look at it. One is the technical competence, and is VUCA a technical competence or is VUCA a behavioral competence? My view, it's a behavioral competence. So build that behavior in the people, and be it in academia, be it in a company, be it any company, any country in the world, it's a behavior. And Absolutely. You need to build that behavior. Once people have that behavior, you will not face the issue. And if people are not flexible, they are not flexible at home. they're not flexible at office. It's not the case other way around.
I think
So-
it's a
so-
very good point. It's a very good point. I think it's, but the only caveat here is the organization culture has an influence. So I may be somebody else in-house, but if the organization culture demands me to behave in a certain way,
Yeah,
I
but-
will have to, and the corporate values will have an impact.
Absolutely, but that culture has that problem too.
Thank you so much.
Meaning, and then culture is built by us as people, and culture is the summary of behaviors that we do.
Right.
So,
Thank you, Talib साहब. आपके कुछ ये खलीफा professors हैं.
and I think I will have more respect, to be honest, for those people. Personally speaking, Talib sahab can comment, but I think like Harvard is not changing those professors. They are just asking them to change the way we should teach the new skills.
No, the question is
So-
whether they welcome a different approach, a different something which, a philosophy which conflicts with their own ideas. It's acceptance of that, openness. Ji sir.
No, not always. I think there are barriers. Sometimes after a certain age, I tend to disagree that people are not willing to change. So we do face those challenges, but not all. I think that there'll be few examples of that, when we, because I think what has happened in academia, especially at the tertiary level, is that we have been stuck with a fixed curriculum and fixed way of teaching for many years. What started in maybe late 60s, 70s, a lot of the business schools which were established started following the same type of, the classical curriculum. But as I said earlier, that things are changing, and they're changing
It's
for
moving
good,
on.
and they're becoming more dynamic. They are changing with time. They're changing with the environment.
No, inshallah, they
So
will
I
be
think
changing,
that,
and we have to go much faster on it with the VUCA
Oh, yeah.
speed.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Kashif sahab, aapka kya, have you been a victim of Khalifa, or you are witnessing some Khalifas in the organization against VUCA?
देखिए, one thing, a number of new businesses are coming up in Pakistan and across the globe, which are smaller organizations and much flatter, and they have a different culture.
Yeah, I think that's a very
So
important
that's the
point.
new norm. Yes.
Very true, very
But
true.
I have faced it in an organization which I headed for 5 years, an organization more than 14,000 people. Yes, you find people who resist change, who just don't want to look any other way than what they have been taught or they have been doing all
नहीं,
along.
मेरा क्वेश्चन सिर्फ ये है काजिब साहब कि अगर जिन ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस में ये हैं हिस्टोरिकली तो हो गया, what are we supposed to do
जी, मैं उधर ही
differently
जा रहा हूँ।
going forward?
जी, मैं उधर ही जा रहा हूँ. One thing is the change has to be put at the heart of every process,
Good.
has to be owned by the senior most leadership.
That
and
is the most important.
That is the most important thing,
Most
I think.
important. Thank you so much, my panelists. Actually, I only had 40 minutes because of your extended lunch break. Where is Asghar? If he's around somewhere. Oh, you're there. I have kept the timing to the best of my ability. This was a very intellectually stimulating discussion. But everybody, I want to thank Shakeel, Asma, Mazhar sahab, Jameel, Talib sahab, Kashif for discussing this very interesting segment which had human resource readiness for the future and education. I would like to thank you all and best of luck for teaching all of us.
Thank you, Mr. Zafar Osmani. I will request Mr. Asad Jafar, the Chairman and CEO of Philips, to please join us to present the plaques to our speakers. The first panelist is Mr. Kashif Mateen Ansari. Mr. Talib S. Karim. Mr. Asghar Jameel. Syed Mazhar Hussain. Thank you, Mr. Asad Jafar. I will request Mr. Amir Iqbal, the Managing Director of Bayer Pakistan. join us and present the plaque to our next panelist, Ms. Asma Shaikh of TCS. Mr. Shakeel Mapara, Sanofi. Our moderator, Mr. Zafar Aziz Osmani. All panelists are requested to please join us for the group photograph. Mr. Asad Jafar, please join us.